everyone and welcome back to Start to Sew. Today I'll learn you how to actually stitch on your sewing machine. Last time I showed you how to thread your sewing machine. If you don't know how to do that, just pop on over to that video and then come back here. Because you first need to thread your sewing machine before you can start stitching. But today I'll learn you how to stitch a straight stitch, how to do corners and how to do curved edges. I also will learn you how to secure your thread, and that's everything that we'll do today. What is a regular stitch? On my sewing machine, when I put it on, it's like this. So this is my regular stitch, and on most sewing machines it's kind of the same. It's just a straight stitch, and which is 2.5 long. For me it ranges from 0 to 5. Other sewing machines maybe have a wider range. So a normal stitch is a straight stitch with a medium length. Now we'll watch at the stitch plate. This is your line 0 on your sewing machine. So if you sew like this, your thread won't catch the fabric. This is actually the stitch line itself. Then we have this tiny little grid, which is really nifty, but you can't see it now. It has the markings 2, 3, 4. It's in centimeters, but it's also an inch. You have above is the inch. You can also see here that's also an inch sizing, and 1 inch is here. But if you want to have seam allowance from 1.5 centimeters, it's here. So you'll just put your fabric like this, right next to it, and then you don't have to put markings on your fabric. I use this all the time. I think it's much more handy and much more useful than being marking on my fabric all the time. When you sew 2 pieces of fabric together, put them like this. The pretty side, which is also referred to as the right side, you will put it on the inside because you will be sewing here, and when it's done your seam will be on the inside and the pretty side will be on the outside. Now you can choose how you would like to sew. Most of the time I just pin my fabrics. You have to make sure that they align very nicely. What I like to do is first I pin on the downside like this, and then I pin up here, and then I'll start pinning in between. While pinning I do like this to make sure that everything aligns perfectly. I will only add one more because it's a very small piece of fabric. And now I can start sewing. Or if you prefer, you can also mark your seam allowance, which is most of the time 1 or 1.5 centimeters. Now we're ready to sew. Now you can actually choose if you would like to use the marking line or if you would like to use the grids. So just lift your foot, bring your fabric under and put it back down. When you sew, it's very important that you backstitch. Backstitch is kind of like making a knot into your fabric. So, and backstitching is like this. I always count. So it's first 3 stitches up front, 1, 2, 3. Then 3 back. It's this button here for me. 1, 2, 3. And then I'll just start sewing again. But it's very important to remove your pins before they hit the needle, so I'll just remove this one. We're almost at the end now. Actually, I should backstitch now, but I'm not going to do it, just to show you the difference. Okay. So this side is where I backstitched. And if I pull it now, I'll rather rip the fabric than I will rip the thread, because it's triple stitch. It's like making a knot in your fabric. On this side where I didn't do it, if I just pull it, see, it just pulls open. I hope you can actually see it. So yeah, it will be loose very, very soon, so that's not a good stitch. So that's why it's always important to backstitch. Now it's time to make a corner. The most important marking is where the corner actually is. So we'll just start sewing. Sew until your needle is in this point and keep it down there. Sometimes when I'm not sure if I'm already hitting it or not, I just use my hand wheel to just do 1 stitch. But I'll need another more. Like this. Then you lift your foot, you turn it, and then you'll stitch again. and a back stitch. If you want to check out how the corner will actually look, you'll have to do like this, just clip off a bit right in front of the corner, not into the corner, but until. Then you'll just flip it right side out. And you can use a pin to do like this, to push out the corner to make it even more pretty. See, a pretty corner. You choose a place, like this for example, there you measure 1.5 centimeters, draw a small line, then like 0.5 centimeter in between, pick another place that's 1.5 centimeters, and you will go all the way around like this. So now it's time for a curved seam. It's almost the same again, but now you have to check where your needle hits your grid if you want to use the grid, and for me it's the third line, it's here. As you can see, I really use my full hands to guide the fabric. As you can see, it's not a perfect curve. Here I went a bit in too much, so you really need to pay attention and stitch really slowly. When you want to turn it right side out, you'll have to make some slits like this, because otherwise it won't be very flat. I'll just do a few to show you. And it's like, again, right until the stitch line, not through the stitch line. When you now turn it right side out, you can see that this, when you actually iron it, it will be very flat.